Hey everyone, it's Melissa with The Creative Season. Well, I found my first gorgeous, beautiful leaf of fall. And of course, I had to start painting it. So next week we'll be going into my fall palette, but this week we're just gonna jump in and get into all the fall feelings and paint this gorgeous leaf using just 3 colors and a micron pen to sketch it out. So grab a gamboge, cadmium yellow, and burnt sienna, and let's paint together. This is gonna be a beautiful way to step into the season and enjoy some fall fun painting. Hey everyone, well, we are officially into fall, and on my walk yesterday I came across this gorgeous leaf. It's already starting to crumple a bit, but isn't it beautiful? It's as big as my hand. It's just massive, and I thought, okay, we have got to paint this beautiful leaf as we start our fall series. I've got some really fun ideas planned, but when this leaf came across my path, I thought we just need to paint this first. So you can see I have sketched it out, and I did want to point out when you're sketching leaves and the different kinds of leaves, this one in particular, I think it's really interesting how you have that these real deep divots, which really, I think this might be a maple leaf, I'm not sure, but that is really a characteristic. So when I was sketching it, making sure I had those deep divots or lines where it's really separating the different parts of the leaf. Always thinking interesting too how this stem, there's like a main artery that goes all the way through, and then the arteries that are coming off, which is just fascinating and beautiful. And I'm going to try to catch some of that, not in the sketching, but with some coloring. So for starters, I'm actually going to do a little bit of splattering just around. I want to think about the outside, and I'm using a couple of colors: gamboge, burnt sienna, cadmium yellow, a medium hue, this is the medium hue. So I'm just going to splatter around this morning. I was thinking about washing it around. I could, but I thought I'm just going to do some splatter. I'm still promoting and sharing the splatter art course. So sometimes when I'm in the course and talking about it, we're just doing more splattering. And I'm thinking it might be fun to do some splatter leaves after doing splatter flowers. But I think the splatter, sometimes we do it at the end, but even at the beginning sometimes, as I just kind of look at it, look around, and I can see how some of those colors are going to blend. I'm actually going to pick up, this is a size 9, or I'm sorry, size 6. Looking at that backwards, so a size 6. I'm actually going to get a little bit of a smaller brush because of that leaf. You can certainly use that size, but when I go and, this is like a 2, it's a 1. You have 1 or 2. I'm going to pick up some of the brown, that burnt sienna, and I want to just go real thin because this is a pretty thin leaf, and I'll end up adding in some yellow, but you can see at the end, the tip here, how dark that is. And there's just a darker color. It's not quite brown, so I will be lightening up, but I just wanted to add in some of the brown that I'm seeing in some of the areas. And I'm letting that go over where I see that artery. Almost as if I'm sketching, but instead of with a pencil, I'm just using a very fine paintbrush. I'm not going to do all of the areas, but I think that's in this leaf, that's what gives it its beauty and uniqueness, is this absolutely gorgeous arteries, that lifeline. I guess that's how it brings the nutrients to all the parts of the leaf. I'm guessing. I'm certainly not a botanist by any means, just an appreciator of the gorgeous, beautiful world that we live in. Okay, so I'm going to continuing to move around here, and hopefully you can see this. Okay, let me come in a bit closer. Okay, so I'm going to come in closer there, and once again coming in, thinking too, this main artery is the kind of lifeline for everything else. Because the brush is so small, I have to pick up paint more often here, and I'm looking at my leaf as my guide here, coming down here as well. And that looks dark, I know. However, when we start putting on the gamboge and the other colors, it will lighten up. And remember, watercolor always lightens up as it dries. So coming over here, you don't have to do all of them, but enough where you start to really see what kind of leaf it is, right? I had this one that I had drawn it with the pen. One of the things, I was thinking about my grandfather the other day, and he said to me that I needed to sketch more, to draw more. That would improve my painting. And I will be honest, I often go right. I don't do as much sketching and go right to painting, but I have been sketching a little bit more lately. I was working on some card designs and sketching those out. Okay. I wish so much that he was here sometimes and I could have that conversation, go out to lunch with him again. But I have lots of wonderful memories, which is the gift that stays with us. Okay, so now he loved trees and leaves and painted absolutely beautiful trees and leaves. I'm going to go ahead and grab my larger paintbrush. I'm going to pick up some gamboge, and I am going to start adding it just around. Not even over, but in between. You can see I'm still leaving in some white areas. You can see too on the sleeve, you have brighter areas over here, and then darker areas almost where it's starting to discolor too. So I want to see if I can capture that. When I first picked it up, when it first fallen off, it was really all very similar in color. But now that it's drying out a bit, you're seeing the different colors show up. And so I really am trying to catch that fall. And there's something about that fall look too, when not only they've turned color on the tree, but as they fall, their colors change too as they dry and they start to crinkle under our feet. Okay, and just moving that around. I was listening to George Winston's music. He has a fall collection, that beautiful piano music. It just takes me away sometimes until I can just see the fields of, well, not fields of trees, forests of trees, but not forest per se. More like over in New England, where you just have all those gorgeous trees covered in beautiful leaves, and in many other parts of the country too. All right, I'm mixing some of the cadmium yellow along with the gamboge just to change things up a bit, and just moving in here, moving fairly fast now. We're still wanting to keep this within 15 minutes, right? Now I'm going to drop some color in too. Just going to drop some color in right here and see what will happen. Sometimes when I try to control it too much, it looks controlled. Versus if I let the paint go and let it kind of start dancing and moving. I'm even going to put a little bit of the brown over here because I can see a lot more darker area as it's beginning to change color. Adding a little bit more of that cadmium yellow. We're just using a couple colors. The other thing too is accentuating where the ends of the leaf, if you see, for example, some darkness at the ends, you can add in brown. All the way up here, right? That looks really nice. And just kind of moving it around, touching it, getting a little bit wet again. And if you think it's too much, you could always take a dry brush and dab a little bit out, or just let it go and see how it dries and how it blends. I'm going to add a little bit more in here and just kind of move it around. Let it start to dance again. Coming up here, and then probably too, I'm going to get some more brown and then just bring that all the way up, that main artery. And then where it's wrinkling a bit and concaving in, letting that shadowy area take over. Taking that smaller brush now with the yellow, I'm going to pull that down in here with some gamboge as well, and that just lightens that up right here. Taking a little bit too, I want to add that right here where I see a spot. The other thing too, take a picture of your painting with your phone And you will notice things in the picture on the phone that you can't see as you look at your painting. It's very fascinating. So like I have my phone on right now doing the time-lapse version of this, and sometimes I'll just peek into it and I'll see a spot that I'm like, oh, I need to add a little bit more color over there. Okay, I don't want to overdo it, and that actually is looking really, really nice. So I see right in here, I'm going to pull this up a bit. I'm going to add a bit more brown right in here. I'm going to actually do some splatters right down here, and we're going to call this complete. I think it's lovely. I really think we're going to bring it a little bit closer, a little bit farther out. We could do this a couple of times, I think. Isn't that pretty? Okay, you guys, what do you think? What are some other color combinations we could do? I think this looks absolutely lovely. Hey everyone, so as I came back and I was looking in here, I wanted just to add a few details and show you what I'm going to do. Because when sometimes you're doing similar colors, it can end up looking just a tad bit flat. So if you felt like it was a bit flat, why don't you just grab a micron pen, and you can see right here as I come back once again and look at some of these leaves details coming off the side. I'm just coming back in. I'm taking my micron pen. I am going ahead and not even doing a straight line, but just adding in some of those details, some of that beautiful line work that's in this leaf. And then what I'm going to come back and do is I'm going to add just a little bit of color and a little bit more splattering. Again, the goal is just to add a depth. And you always want to think, at least I'm always thinking about, like I see some intensity right in here. I'm thinking about, where is the eye going? Like I think I'm going to frame this afterward, and I might give it to a friend as a gift. I'm going to go visit this afternoon. But I wonder, what does it look like? You know, what is that outline looking like? Okay, good. You can see that. I'm going to back this up a little bit. I know I went in there. If you saw any of my hair, I'm so sorry, as I sometimes get in the picture. I don't mean to. And so see, even doing this, we can add a little bit more detail in here. If you want to add some of those that intricate part of the leaves. Again, we're not completely outlining it, but this is just a wonderful way of showing off some of the beauty. And you know, it's also a little bit of a faster way to create these beautiful works of art. I just love the combination of that pen with the paint. It's just really fun. And you know, again, we're only using 3 colors. We're using the gamboge, the burnt sienna, and cadmium yellow medium hue. You can certainly add in more colors, and we're going to be doing some leaf varieties later on. Okay, making sure, good, you can still see that. But I'm going to come through here now. You'll notice too, grab your smaller brush and pick up some of the dark brown, that burnt sienna that you have on there. And let me make sure too, yeah, that is my burnt sienna. And I'm going to just do some splattering. I'm specifically using the smaller one at first. The brown's going to add that contrast, right? Which is really important, because if you have all just yellows and oranges, I had played with some colors last season. Was it last season? I think it was. Where all the paintings just they were lovely and had a golden hue to them, but it's that they lacked a bit of contrast as I was pulling some of them out. So I'm just going to come up in here as well. And where I see some of those intensity of lines, I'm just coming back in and adding in a little bit more color. And again, right over here, for example, I'm seeing some intensity there. I'm going to bring in some yellow. And remember, the more water you add, the less intense the color is going to be. So if you want a more saturated color, just add less water and add in that paint. I really love that about watercolor. You can change the saturation and the look of the painting with more or less water in your color. Really unique to the medium. Again, I'm going to come over here and move this around. Adding a little bit of water here because I just want to keep a movement here. Right in there. So not tons, but again, just a little bit of a pop here. I'm going to pull in some yellow down in here where that has not dried completely on the actual leaf. And so I just see lots of yellow. I'm actually going to get lots of yellow paint and then splatter as well. And then some of those splatters I'll just move and merge around. And some of them will just dry as splatters, which is, I think, just lovely. Okay, so now we have really, again, I wanted just to jump on and show you this. So now we have just a finished painting, right? If you want to pull a little bit of yellow here, that looks great. I love that. I love that so much. Now we can leave it like this. You could even turn this into some quote art. We'll be doing a little bit more of that later in the season. Down here, you could add a note. You could put this in your journal. Just really, really lovely. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you enjoyed seeing just a few minutes of detail work.